Now, amidst the cost of living crisis, we're keeping tabs on how prices and economy are doing. We can tell you now, as we did a moment ago, that the GDP figures in the last few minutes show that the economy fell by 0.5% in December.
But the figures have remained relatively stable over the final quarter of the year and have even grown by 4.1% across the whole of 2022.
Well, let's talk to the CEO and founder of Fair Finance and Fair Money, Dr. Roger Gewolb, who joins us in the studio. Good to see you. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Stephen. Very well. Thank you.
What do you make of these figures? The fact we're not in recession.
Yeah, I mean, they're surprisingly good. I expected them to announce a small further negative drop, but they've really recovered. Not only are we not in recession, but I suppose that we've also pulled out of that last position we were in last week.
Still pretty gloomy, though.
Very gloomy.
Yeah, I mean, but the fact we are sort of flat in essence, and the Chancellor has said in the last few minutes, you know, the UK was the fastest growing economy in the G7 last year. We have avoided recession, shows our economy is more resilient than many feared. Do you think he's right? Well,
yeah, I think he's right insofar as what economists think. But, you know, these numbers never really do affect the daily lives of most Britons. The crush of the cost of living crisis, the crush of interest rates and energy prices is still with us. And in fact, I noted that even though inflation is due to be 3.2% next winter, it's still going to be very, very difficult for people.
So when are we really going to see an upturn in the economy? When can people say, finally, I can feel a difference?
I would think about 2 years.
Right. OK.
Just before a general election. And,
well, that's handy.
Well, my theory is that all the taxation that's going on and the increased interest rates are really to build up a war chest of funds to give us some giant tax cuts just before the general election because, you know, the Tories are sort of hanging on with their fingernails at the moment, and they're hoping that that will turn things around. I'm not so sure.
That's interesting, because, I mean, people have speculated about that, of course. I know you look at the finance and not the necessarily the sort of the political and social political side of it all, but do you think the public would buy into that? Because ultimately we would know, wouldn't we, that we had struggled for 2 years when perhaps we wouldn't have had to have struggled so badly if they weren't doing it for political reasons.
Please don't get me started.
Well, no,
I do look at the political and the social. We are being gaslighted. In other words, that's a term a lot of people use without really understanding what it means. It means manipulating someone so that they doubt their own reality, what's in front of their nose. We are being gaslighted by this government and the opposition like never before. We're being told that raising interest rates is good for us in helping combat inflation. Well, you know, I looked at a program I did last June, and I said, oh, my God, it's our 5th interest rate rise. We've gone to 1.25%. Inflation is 10%. Well, Andrew Bailey's not much of a firefighter because it's still 10%. We're on our 10th rise, and now we're probably heading to 4.5%. I don't think the public is fooled by being told this is good for them. I also don't think they're fooled by the taxes, you know, all the stealth taxes recently introduced. I think the Tories are going to have a really hard time, even if they dole out giant tax cuts. And Labour, frankly, is no better. The human bollard, as Boris called Starmer the other day, really should be out there every day saying what they would do, but instead he just criticizes.